I first started working on this project, it was literally I want to put out 52 songs in a year situation. And the record company, this is on Big Machine. Scott is the guy who runs it over there. And Scott was like, Christian, why don't you just cut it into four pieces instead of put it all out in one day? I'm a little anxious as a record guy. Not everybody's going to hear all the songs. I said, okay. What I hear when I hear stuff like that is you have an opportunity now to try to, tell stories. And that's what I do. And in this case, so I'm letting the songs kind of group themselves together to some degree and tell a story. The first one was actually the album that was going to be a solo album that followed Southern Gravity, which was my first solo album. And the week I was about to turn that in is the week Jennifer called and said, let's make a new Sugarland record, right? So I put that off. So that was the first thing that we released is volume one. Volume two was timing out with the summer. So I can't resist that. That's really what, when people think of me in any kind of way, even with Sugarland, I'm like the happy bouncy guy. So this is the happy bouncy guy record. And then this third one, I knew was going to time out as the weather was going to break into fall and into winter. And I really thought it was going to be a bunch of love songs. That's really what I had tried to do. And as I was trying to put them together, I realized, holy crap, my 90s are showing. Like I was bending over to pick something up and someone saw my plumber butt or something, and I was like, wow, I guess I shouldn't put all these songs together. It sounds too much like I'm still in my band in the 90s. And then it turns out maybe that's what I should be doing. So that's what I did. So New Blue is a collection of songs that in many ways, if you have any inkling of where I came from musically before Sugarland, or even Jennifer did, then you would recognize some of the sounds and the songs. What I found when I started poking around is there's the last song on the record. I was about to make the first song. The song is about things that are just better when they're worn in, like jeans and good love and things like that. And the line was, how about we put a dent in this bottle? Let's anything we've got, let's put a dent in it. It makes it better. And it was Knock Off the New Blue. And I was like, huh. And then I kind of just typed that in because I wanted to see if anyone had named a record that. And what it did is it spit out to me an interesting story. I did not know this until I did a little research that the color blue is a combination of chemicals, right? And the chemical combination is something that was somewhat perfected and then stopped innovating about 300 years ago. So the things that we do to create blue are somewhat expensive. It's an odd combination of things. And it's also a color that follows me around because my mom and my dad both had blue eyes. So my daughter and I both have these wacko blue eyes. Like when you meet us, you don't see our bodies. You just see our eyeballs. And so it's always been following around. And I always thought to myself, well, is that my favorite color? Is it supposed to be? But what I found was there was a man very recently about 10 years ago, a scientist, first name is Moss. And Moss was looking for something to complete his big idea to miniaturize a part of a computer chip. And when he was doing it, he was experimenting with different chemicals and poof, suddenly there was a brand new accidental discovery of the chemicals he had combined created blue. And we haven't done anything like this in 300 years. And so I loved this idea of the idea of new blue being something that we sat down and thought, man, this is perfect the way it is. We're not going to do anything with it. And then by accident, we rediscovered it, which is exactly what music is like for me. When I was 20 something, I signed my record deal in the 90s, in 1992. I learned how to do music. And then I kind of put it down as a way to innovate or rediscover. And then suddenly in the middle of sequencing this record, that's what happened. Strangely, in the world of country music, there's a lot of collaboration in the songwriting, but it doesn't typically that way in rock and roll or even in pop. I don't know, maybe pop, they separate the jobs a little to where it's not a bunch of co-writers. It's like someone who does lots of rhythms and then someone who does lots of melody. And so it can be divided that way. But in the last number of years, I guess 4 or 5 years, I've been asked to write a bunch of musicals. alone. And so I kind of reconnected with the idea of what it's like to write by yourself. And it's very spooky. Because when I open my mouth to write something alone, there's no validation and there's no one telling you it's wrong or right. You just do it and go, does that suck? And then you have to answer your own question. And in in both of these cases, these songs were written. Both of those solo songs were written a good 8 years ago. But what's interesting in both cases is they both happened on the same day. And the day that that happened, I had been going through a pretty tough time in my life, and one of the things that happened is my friends all gathered together in my studio and were like, "Man, let's just record today whatever songs you want to record." It's like a drummer, bass player, my brother, and this stuff, and we just hit record, and it was me thumbing through my notebook, and at least two of them I had no words for, but I knew kind of how I wanted them to feel. I wanted one to feel like a giant Springsteen song, and the other one I was just mad. I was just angry, which is the opposite of if you've ever met me. Like the mean, angry me is like, you're like, no, he must be on drugs or something because he's never mean and angry. And so the first one is called The Great American Scream Machine, which is the name of the roller coaster down here. And I had this idea that we were at the beginning of the Trump era, and I was having a concern that there were just no more great Americans. And then I thought about the idea of the Great American Scream Machine. I was like, oh, I'll be witty and bury it inside of this lyric, right? And of course, I'm not being witty at all. I'm totally transparent, and I'm even telling you, and you're a journalist person. Then the other one is called Somebody Promised You, and I was so mad. I was so mad. If you want to hear what like Kristian as a Pearl Jam fan is, then just go listen to that song. That's all I got to tell you. Well, obviously, if you don't know by now, I'm producing a new artist in country music named Megan Maroney. And she was our intern in our studio. And she was very strangely never even told us that she wrote songs. So after her internship was over, she then approached us, which is, by the way, a very classy way to do that. And I heard her music and I was like, oh, you're good. Oh, you're good. What you need to do is no longer like pose for pictures because you're super pretty and they're never going to listen to your song. They're just going to want you to stand there. So let's work some on making your music as evocative as the way that you were born, right? And she's doing a great job. So you're going to love this artist. She's so good. I'm working with her right now. It's pretty fun because my songs are coming out on the same playlist that hers are, which is kind of fun. So I produced that one, sing that one, like wrote that one. It's kind of really weird. I love, there's a new band from North Carolina. They're not new, but they're new in your heart, called The Collection. If you want to learn about a wonderful new band, you can go listen to that. I am an obsessed fan of a band called Muna. And when I say obsessed, like I haven't gotten a tattoo, but I've thought about it. Like it's that weird. Muna is three girls from Southern California. They're a super LGBTQ super band. And I'm from Atlanta, so I was raised by wolves, and they are making music that when I go see their shows, I feel the way the audience felt during their first set of Sugarland shows, which is everyone belongs, and this music's going to make you forget the world for a minute. So if you get a chance to see Muna, please go see them. You're listening